Sometimes a story that's absolutely massive, one that really shapes a nation, just kind of fades away. Recently, the passing of Maharani Kamsundari Devi of Darbhanga quietly closed a huge chapter in India's history. She was the last of her kind, and her life is linked to an incredible act of patriotism that most of us have never even heard of. So today, let's uncover this incredible and nearly forgotten legacy. It all kicks off with this number, 600 kilograms. What on earth could that mean? Well, believe it or not, it represents the weight of one of the single most significant royal contributions to modern India, given at a time when the nation was in absolute crisis. Okay, picture this. It's 1962. The India-China war is on, and the government puts out an urgent call for help. And the response from the Darbhanga royal family? It was immediate, and it was absolutely staggering. 600 kilograms of pure gold handed right over for the national defense effort. So this really makes you wonder, right? Who was this family that put their duty to the nation so far above their own royal privilege? And maybe more importantly for us today, in an age of loud gestures, what can we learn from a story of such quiet, unwavering service? This incredible act of generosity is really just the tip of the iceberg, but it's a moment that truly defines their entire legacy. So let's dive in. And here's the thing, that 600 kilograms of gold, that was just the starting point. I mean, get this, the Darbhanga family also just handed over their 3 private aircraft and gifted a whole 90-acre airstrip to the government. And that airstrip, that's the modern-day Darbhanga airport. This wasn't just about writing a check, this was a total all-in commitment to the nation's security. But see, a gesture that huge doesn't just come out of nowhere. The thing about that 1962 donation is, it wasn't a one-off thing. It was basically the family's philosophy, baked into their DNA. For the Darbhanga Raj, duty to the nation always came before privilege. So when we say Darbhanga Raj, what are we even talking about? Well, forget the idea of just some fancy feudal estate. This was a powerhouse. For generations, it was the beating heart of the Bihar region, the engine driving progress in culture, in education, and in new ideas. It was an institution in its own right. And you don't just have to take my word for it. This quote from Bihar Minister Dilip Kumar Jaiswal says it all. It just drives home that the spirit of giving was who they were. Whenever the country needed them, the Darbhanga treasury was open for business. But their impact went way beyond just helping out in a crisis. They were fundamental in actually building the infrastructure of modern India, especially when you look at education and industry. I mean, just look at this list. The sheer scale of their investment in education is just mind-boggling. They didn't just found a few key places. They pumped massive amounts of financial support into some of the most famous universities in the country. We're talking Banaras Hindu University, Calcutta University, Aligarh Muslim University. The list just goes on. They were literally building the intellectual bedrock of the nation. And at the exact same time, they were firing up the country's economic engine. They established a whole network of sugar, paper, and jute mills. The vision was just so forward-thinking. They were even pioneers in India's earliest aviation services. Seriously, in every way, they were building a self-reliant nation from the ground up. But let's bring this huge, grand, historical story down to a much more personal level. Because the story of the last Maharani, Kamsundari Devi, is one of quiet dignity for sure, but also one of immense personal sacrifice. Her life was one of these stark, unbelievable contrasts. On one side, she was the public face of one of India's most powerful royal families. But on the other, her personal reality was just filled with hardship. She was married at just 8 years old. She was a widow by 30. And she spent over 6 decades, 64 years in widowhood. Her husband, Maharaja Kameshwar Singh, passed away in 1962. Yep, the exact same year of their historic donation. And she lived on for another 64 years, carrying the weight of that legacy with so much grace and dignity, right until she passed away at the age of 93. So you see, her passing wasn't just the loss of one person. It really truly was the quiet closing of an entire era for the region, and really for all of India's history. As Professor Jitendra Narayan put it so perfectly, a living chapter of Darbhanga's royal history has quietly closed. It's the end of a direct, living connection to a time when service and sacrifice were what defined royalty. And that kind of forces us to ask, what's the takeaway here? It leaves us with a final, really important question to think about. In a world that is so often driven by loud headlines and being noticed, what is the real value of a legacy that's built on quiet, consistent, selfless service? The story of the Darbanga Raj and its last Maharani, well, it gives us a pretty powerful answer to reflect on.